Lady Joan Branson, who has passed away at the age of 80, was far more than the wife of one of Britain's most famous entrepreneurs. For over 4 decades, she stood quietly but steadfastly beside Sir Richard Branson as his Virgin Empire grew from a small record label into a world-spanning global brand. Those closest to the couple have long described Joan as the grounding force behind Richard's adventurous spirit, a steady presence who anchored him through triumphs, risks, and reinventions. Sir Richard often spoke of Joan as his greatest source of stability. Though he built companies and conquered industries, he frequently admitted that his most important investment was the woman he met long before Virgin became a household name. Their love story began not in a corporate boardroom or at a glamorous gala, but inside the relaxed, chaotic atmosphere of Virgin's recording studios at the Manor in Oxfordshire during the mid-1970s. Their first encounter, according to Sir Richard, has never faded from his memory. In 1976, Joan happened to be visiting the studio when he noticed her casually making herself a cup of tea. That simple moment, he later wrote, changed his life forever. He believed strongly in first impressions and often said that within half a minute of meeting Joan, he knew she was someone extraordinary. In later reflections, he described her as refreshingly genuine, a woman who was unimpressed by wealth, reputation, or flamboyance, and who remained delightfully grounded in a world that soon became anything but. Joan, originally from Scotland, had been raised in Glasgow alongside her 6 siblings by their father, a ship carpenter whose hard work shaped her values. She grew up learning the importance of humility, resilience, and quiet strength, qualities that she carried into adulthood and into her marriage. Long before she became Lady Branson, she lived a modest life and worked at a quaint bric-a-brac shop in Westbourne Grove, West London. It was there that Richard's pursuit truly began. He admitted freely that the affection was not returned right away. Despite his growing success in business, he was awkward and hesitant where romance was concerned. Determined yet nervous, he eventually summoned the courage to enter Joan's shop, pretending to be fascinated by vintage signage and old advertisements. Over time, he became a regular visitor, returning again and again not just for the novelty items, but for the woman behind the counter. His supposed fascination with antique signs resulted in his houseboat becoming cluttered with old painted metal boards, advertising everything from bread to cigarettes. What began as a love-struck excuse to linger soon transformed into something remarkable. One particular Danish bacon poster left a deep impression on him. It showed a grinning pig eyeing a chicken's nest with the words, "Now that's what I call music." At the time, Virgin was preparing to launch a new compilation album series. That phrase resurfaced during a brainstorming session, and before anyone realized it, one of the most successful music brands in history had been born. Although Joan had unwittingly influenced pop culture, fame never appealed to her. Throughout Sir Richard's rise to prominence, she avoided the spotlight entirely. She rarely gave interviews and chose private family life over celebrity circles. While her husband became one of Britain's most recognizable faces, Joan remained content being unseen, allowing others to take the stage while she supported from behind the curtain. In a moving anniversary letter published in 2020, Sir Richard paid tribute to the woman who had shared his life for over 4 decades. He described her not only as his wife of 30 years but as his lifelong partner of 44, the mother of their 2 children, and his emotional anchor through life's turbulence. He openly credited her wisdom, guidance, and calm reasoning for many of his most important decisions. Perhaps the most famous example of his devotion was Necker Island, Sir Richard's private island retreat in the British Virgin Islands. He admitted that the purchase had little to do with business strategy and everything to do with winning Joan's heart. 2 years after they met, he arranged a helicopter ride for them to view the island, despite being far from able to afford such a luxury. Love had given him boldness where logic might have failed. At the time, the island's asking price stood well beyond his reach. When his initial offer of $100,000 was rejected outright, the pair were forced to find their own way back from the island, embarrassed, sunburned, and penniless by comparison to the asking price. But Sir Richard was not deterred. Within a year, after gathering funds however he could, he returned with a higher bid, and this time, it was accepted. The island would eventually become their wedding venue, family haven, and one of the most iconic properties owned by any entrepreneur. Richard and Joan married in 1989 on Necker Island, at which time their children, Holly and Sam, were still young. The family later expanded to include 5 grandchildren, a source of great pride and happiness for both parents. Despite living a life surrounded by private planes, island retreats, and celebrity friends, Joan remained devoted above all else to her family. In heartfelt messages posted just days before her death, Sir Richard referred to Joan as a model of love, patience, and loyalty. He wrote that everyone deserves a Joan in their life, someone who shares your dreams, challenges your thinking, and walks beside you through every season of change. Even while reflecting on their decades together, Sir Richard repeatedly expressed wonder at how life had unfolded. He said that when he saw Joan 4 decades earlier in that studio kitchen, he could never have imagined the family they would create, the adventures they would share, or the global legacy they would leave behind. Joan Branson lived a life defined not by headlines but by devotion. She avoided attention, yet shaped history through love. She remained unseen, yet stood behind one of the most recognizable businessmen in the world. Her presence may have been quiet, but her influence was immense. As Sir Richard once said, his life without Joan was unimaginable. And now, in her absence, what remains is a story of devotion that transcends wealth, fame, and success, a love built on everyday moments, teacups in recording studios, antique signs, and the belief that true partnership is the greatest accomplishment of all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more updates on celebrity deaths and news updates.